forgotten how fuchsia my hair used to be. Now I just wear it all over me. Give me an F. Give me an A. Give me a T. What does that spell? See, I would hop on a red eye just to bust out some F word with you guys. Wow. But in part because of the fear that I felt around the word fat growing up as a fat kid. And the word fat has really a lot of message. When people usually say it, there's like a face that goes with it. Not a happy face. You know, fat, I feel fat. Connie Sobczak, who's an eating disorders activist, reminds me, and I love this observation, I feel fat. Fat is not actually an emotion. It's just a word. So in fat activist community, I'm still doing this since the mid-90s. Just what words do we pick to talk about body diversity around weight? And what are the other words we use instead of a fat person to describe a fat person? Zaftig, which means in Yiddish, juicy, right? And fat and juicy. So that's interesting choice. What other words do people use for fat? Big. What else? Chunky, obese, plump, chubby, hefty, rotund. There's some gendering. Plus-sized, overweight. Do we ever get minus-sized? No. Outsized? Undersized? I don't know, yeah. Yeah. Heavy? Outsized? I don't know. Outsourced? No. So let me just break down my reaction to those words. Please come on in, and there are handy chairs anywhere. Let me start with what I think of as the O words. I make the face at them. Overweight. Is that word in itself a judgment? Yeah. Do we say over height? Not so much. We just say tall, because we like tall people. So overweight, I think, is not a word that I want to use. Even though I appreciate when people use it, they're trying to be polite and trying not to hurt anyone's feelings. I appreciate those intentions. But I think the word itself carries a judgment that I don't care to repeat. Also, it kind of has this fantasy inside it, like in the beautiful Star Trek world of the future where we fixed problems, there won't be any fat people anymore, right? And I don't like that picture of the future much. I don't like that whole kind of like get rid of an entire group of people kind of attitude. I think there's a word for that. So ask Katie Lebesco about that tomorrow, what she thinks of that. So the other O word, obesity, you will find out from my personal story in a minute, I will tell you. But it's used, does it sound kind of like a diagnosis or a medical thing, like it's meaningful? It sounds like that. Can you tell by looking at a person and weighing them how healthy they are? You can't. So I think there's an inaccuracy there. At the very least, an inaccuracy. And also, I think the word obesity is used to justify discrimination based on weight. And so I don't like the O word for those two reasons. Please come on in wherever I don't know what you guys are up to, but feel free. So those are the O words. The other words, I will simply say that as festive as some of them are, who doesn't want to be juicy, right? Although fluffy, I have real troubles with the fluffy. Has anyone heard the fluffy? I am not inflated, right? I would call them all euphemisms. Can anyone give me a definition of what a euphemism is? Doesn't have to be all smart or anything. A nice way to say something that's not nice? Derogatory. It's kind of like a positive spin on a negative, a nice way to say something derogatory. Anything else about euphemism? A camouflage way to say something you don't want to have to say, yeah. So it's like hiding, too. If we're using euphemisms, as nice as they may sound, there's the implication that it's covering something unpleasant. So I liked the idea of celebrating weight diversity. So as fun as euphemisms are, I like fat because it can be just a simple word. It can be like fat and thin, short and tall, young and old, and we don't have to invest any of those with negative judgments. I like it for that, and I also like it for the raised pudgy fist aspect, right? You know, the reclaiming with a sense of identity, politics, and pride. And I'm certainly inspired by all of the other people who have raised their fists on all sorts of different identities. So that's my breakdown just of word choice, you know, if I'm gonna talk to you about fat. And I do think the F word is kind of really fun to break through the fear and feel some liberation. So on the count of 3, and to perplex people who have just walked in, loud and proud from the belly, let's try the F word one more time. 1, 2, 3, fat! That was really good. Wasn't that good? Isn't that fun that you just walked in and you have no idea? It's good, yeah. Yeah, thank you. I do too. So what am I gonna do next? This is my little cheat sheet. I made a New Year's resolution once just to pony more often. Really believe in ponying. So let me tell you my story about how one gets to be a full-time free-range fat rebel. I didn't grow up a little chubby child on a cul-de-sac in Orange County, California, saying, "Mommy, Daddy, I want to be a free-range fat rebel." I didn't have the idea, obviously. Luckily, there are people before me who had the idea to do fat acceptance, and Barbara Bruno, who's in the room. Where are you, Barbara? One of our founding fat activist people, had those ideas, and I came across a book called Shadow on a Tightrope, which is an anthology of fat women's writings on fat oppression. But I didn't really, I think I was kind of an armchair size acceptor, as many of us are, people can be, until I had a really bad day. 2 things happened. First, I was having dinner with this guy. You know how you have, when you're in your 20s, you have dinner with this guy. You know this guy? You don't really know what's gonna go on. You know, does he like you? I don't know. Do you like him? We're having dinner. In the middle of dinner, he says to me, "Oh, I just realized I'm embarrassed to introduce you to some of my friends because you're fat." I love it. Thank you for the gasps and the horrified faces. You get the facial expression award. Good one. And that would have been kind of enough. I think I went home, and like a lot of us, when we experience exclusion for who we are, I think I just wanted to forget, go to sleep and forget. That was in the early mid-90s, and I'm doing a good job on forgetting, right? I came home. Yeah, thank you. Number 2 thing of my really bad day happened. That wasn't all. So I get home, and at the time I was working as a freelance writer in San Francisco, mid-20s, groovy life. And my mom on the phone, she would say, "When are you getting health insurance?" So kind of to make our phone calls more pleasant, I had applied for some. I opened the mail that night. Blue Cross of California says, "Thanks, you're morbidly obese." Remember the O words? So you're not allowed to buy health insurance because of your weight alone. Thank you. You get the facial expression reaction. So what a great day, actually, this really bad day. Because on a social level, on an institutional level, no, go away, you're not welcome here, you don't exist, you're not a person for us. That was the feeling I got. And from the health insurance people, like, well, we'd just rather you die. Don't even know amount of money, you know? You should be dying now, you're so fat, is kind of the feeling. So it really made it easy for me to decide to come out as a fat person, because I wasn't losing anything, hoping, you know? And so the next day I decided to start a zine called Fatso, fat exclamation point, well, I can just show you, right? So, question mark, like, and that's a really, I think I did the first issue of the zine just running on really high octane rage. Has anyone ever been really enraged? Excellent energy source. Do something creative with that energy. It doesn't have to be a zine, it can be dance, it can be, you know, a blog, I don't care. But I did this zine, and I think for myself, just 1 or 2 issues would have been enough to kind of feel the feelings and publicly disagree with being excluded for being fat. Because I think that's what coming out, oh, also, coming out as fat, not so much of a secret. But maybe yes. Fat people who don't say the word fat and who are not out of that fat closet are kind of, well, what are they saying? They're saying, this isn't my real body. My real body is in the future and is thinner. So it's a kind of a temporal closet. I don't know how it works. Yeah. I feel the pain. So coming out as fat, and this question, fat, so I'm still, in 2011, asking this question, so why do we make such a thing out of whether someone's fat or thin? Why do we even have categories? What does it mean? And I think that for me, the excitement is in part my own layers and layers of liberation, right? But also the fun of raising consciousness for people who, like I was, I would have really liked that idea of weight diversity and celebrating it when I was on that cul-de-sac in Orange County as a little kid. So it's exciting to me to talk to all of you. And the question I have is, if we can't be at home in our own bodies, where are we supposed to go? And I think fat and thin is a kind of an angle on that question, and there are many angles on it, obviously, but I bring the kind of the weight one. And I think it's somewhat unexplored, although there are a lot of people in this room who have been exploring it fabulously, so I'm really glad about that. So to explore that question and kind of look at the question, so, I would like us to, well, is anyone here an anthropologist? 1, 2, excellent. This is not, you don't have to whip out your anthropology card for this, but what we're gonna do, now I need to see if there's a dry erase one. Otherwise, oh, here we go. Otherwise, thank you. The board will be very sad. What I want us to do is what I call speed anthropology. So I promise no anthropologists will be hurt in the process. Speed, it won't take very long. Here's what I suggest. We're gonna look at the words fat and thin. And instead of thinking of synonyms, I want us to pretend we're anthropologists looking at modern American culture who's been exposed. You're an anthropologist now, imagining in your mind modern American culture, and what words does modern American culture attach to the words fat and thin? Other concepts that get attached to those. Now, if you come upon one that I haven't heard before in 15 years of doing speed anthropology with groups of people, and it happens, you get a happy dance. It's improvisational, very fun, motivation. Also, if you come across a kind of an artifact of a word that our culture attaches to these words, and it's a kind of an icky one, you don't really want to touch it or get any on you, yet you are brave enough to say it, I will also do a happy dance for your courage. So for the next couple minutes, feel free if you can think of, be in your anthropology mode, any associations our culture makes for fat and for thin. Thin, sexy. Miserable.
Lazy.
And lazy for fat. Unhealthy. Popular. Pretty. Happy. Ooh, normal. Lucky. I haven't gotten lucky before. Happy. Disciplined. Rich. Anorexic. Wait, where? Gluttonous, ponying over.
Ugly for fat.
Ugly. I missed one. Severe. Interesting. I don't think I've gotten a severe. I'm going to have to do my proper, like, that's my dance for severe. Healthy.
Nurturing.
Do we not have healthy? I have healthy twice? Oh, I did that, didn't I? They're happy, double happiness. Is there unhappy over here? We had miserable, it's beyond. Alone. Funny, or it starts with a J. Jolly. Santa. Huh? Smelly. It's really hard to get people to say smelly. Desexualized.
And for fat to go with desexualized, nurturing.
Nurturing. Did I already have lazy or did I hear? Easy. Dumb. Here. Yes. Frightening. Awesome. Slow. Excellent.
Did we do self-indulgent?
Not yet. Let's do some self-indulgent.
Out of control.
Yeah, we had disciplined over there, so out of control over here.
Thin, repressed.
Repressed. Excellent. Do we have any food associations? Huh? Wait, craft bake? What? Broccoli. I'm wearing broccoli. Wait, for which side? Oh, thin broccoli. What happens if I eat broccoli then? The world explodes. Any other food over here? Organic. So interesting. Huh? I've never gotten vodka, but I'm on it. That was lemon-flavored vodka, that dance, just so you know. Lard. Donuts. Fried. The word Yeah. Junkie. Yeah. I remember that, yeah, the heroin chic, yeah. Moral. Waif. These are more synonyms, but you know, whatever. Athletic. What? Root? Oh, brute. And toned over here. These are awesome. What about clothing? So no sex, but lots of X's. Tent. Ghetto. Oh, so interesting. Poor. Oh, wait, I missed unfashionable. Wait, is fat or thin a bitch, or is it like right on the line? Bitch. Wait, what? This is intense, huh? Scrawny. Oh, acceptable. Accepted. Tomboy. Lovable.
Untolerated for fat.
Untolerated. Wait, I gotta get back to pig. Pig. Are there other animals? And with beady little eyes, often sometimes hippo. Rhino. Rhino is a kind of hippo for this anthropological purpose. Invisible. Well, I hope someone is writing all of these down, because if you wanted to do your dissertation just on this, I think you could probably stretch it out, maybe. This is a rich finding. Do we have some more? I didn't mean to cut you off in your speed intro. Bird for thin. Do you know that birds eat their entire body weight every day? Eat like a bird? Young, sure. Young, old. So we've got yes. We have moo-moo. Caftan, there are all kinds of like over here. Really?
Yeah, big tent.
Not in my size. In my size? Yeah, we got sweats. Stretch. All lycra. Well, maybe. What about clothes for thin people just naked? Huh?
And for thin, high fashion.
High fashion. bikinis, mini skirts. Yeah, I am not going to wear undergarments that discipline me in that way. It's okay. I mean, I imagine they're comfy and fun, but they need to come up with a different name, like flatteries or something. I don't even know. I missed one. Was there another one that I missed? Huh?
Delicate for thin.
Feminine.
Feminine. Oh, we also have masculine, right?
Yeah.
Oh, how about small bone, big bone?
Small bones. Big bones. We only have broccoli over here. Really? There's no other food?
Salad.
Or salad.
Celery.
Celery.
Sushi. Yeah. Cottage cheese.
Celery.
Tofu.
Rice cakes.
Air.
Bulimic.
Coconut. Vegan.
Coconuts have too high in fat.
I know.
Coconuts?
Speaking as a thin person, yes, coconuts, I eat them every
They're
day.
too high in fat, though. They have a lot
How
of.
about just go on the other side?
I think that's called anecdata. But yeah, burritos. So, do we have a beverage over here?
Water.
Diet soda.
Diet.
And diet soda.
Yeah.
The irony.
But diet soda goes on the fat side.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have fish and diet soda.
Junk food. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop this being anthropology only because, well, I don't know. We could go on. How many of you guys are awesome? This is like the most enlightening ever. Yeah, document this. Somebody write this up. Yeah. This is a lot to know. Can we, in addition to coming up with all of this rich data, can we name this picture that we just drew? Can you guys think of a name?
Stereotypes?
Stereotypes?
Crap.
Social baggage.
Social baggage?
Weekly women's magazines.
Propaganda.
Propaganda?
Middle school.
Huh?
Middle school.
Middle school? Excellent.
Drama. Unfortunate reality.
Unfortunate reality. Let's, I'm just gonna collapse it down into crappy social baggage and stereotypes. Is that okay? You guys are with me on that? We have come up with a new name for it. It is crappy social baggage and stereotypes. This line intrigues me. I have drawn it. I didn't have to do that, but I decide that I'm intrigued by the division between fat and thin, the act of dividing it as a kind of a cultural construction. The line moves, right? Is there like a line between fat and thin and it's like just one weight? Some what? Right, well some words are on both sides, but like any particular body could, like it's not like there's a fact in the world, like we know where the line is between fat and thin. It kind of moves around, and I think in part it moves around to maximize our alienation. I don't really have a conspiracy theory around it, but I did notice in 1998 when the government drew new cutoff points for so-called overweight and so-called obesity, that they corresponded to the largest point on the weight distribution curve for the population in the United States. So the dividing line is at the maximum point for craziness for everyone, right? Let me see if I can draw a little picture. If you have a graph, like a bell curve, of distribution of weight across our population in the United States, the BMI lines for cutoffs are like at the peak of the bell curve. That make sense? Yeah. The median, yes. And I actually have this picture in my computer somewhere, but if you want to see what the obesity epidemic looks like, it looks like that, actually. So the line moves around. How do you find out which side of the line you're on? Whether you're fat or thin? Who tells you? Statistics, doctors, you yourself. Were you born knowing that there was fat and thin, or is it Your parents might have told you. Who else? Strangers will tell you, as a helpful public service. Passing motorists when you are perhaps jogging, walking, or riding your bicycle. There is a thing called BMI, which I like to say that acronym stands for blatantly meaningless information. But yeah, before that there was an ideal height weight chart, right? Similarly meaningless. The height weight charts came from Metropolitan Life Insurance Company in the 20s. There was this guy, Lewis Dublin, who was a statistician. His wife had gotten fat over the years. He wasn't happy about that. Setting that aside, I'm sure it didn't influence what he came up with at all. He made the height weight charts based on insurance company data, which was life insurance forms. So when a person bought life insurance, they would write in themselves, with no one verifying it, what they weighed. Have you ever thought that someone might lie about their weight on a form like that? Self-reported data from a population of people who in the 20s were buying life insurance, so most likely not poor, but upper class white men. These are the people who were buying, I mean, not all white, obviously, and not all upper class, but like skewed. And then they knew when they died, when they cashed in their life insurance policies. They didn't know how their weight might have changed over the course of their life, or any of that. Based on that, he came up with these kind of weight ranges that were the weights for height that seemed to correlate with longest life, considering no other variables, of course. And the weight range was like 50 pounds. And he didn't like it being such a wide range of weights. It's a hard thing to say. So he invented frame size to create 3 frames, small, medium, and large frame. And ever since then, people have been looking for a way to measure frame, because there's no such thing as frame size. It's just a way for Lewis Dublin to make the weight categories narrower, like 10 to 15 pounds. Yeah? So that became so obviously bullshit to everyone in the public health sector that they came up with BMI, right? And BMI is just a way to say how tall you are and what you weigh as one number. So it doesn't have some magical property. Okay, that was a little sideline. How do you tell which side of the line you're on? The government will tell you, doctors will tell you, the media will tell you, advertising will tell you, your family will tell you, your friends will tell you, your sex partners will tell you, strangers on the street will tell you. We have, mirrors will tell you based on internalized messages that you're carrying from all of these other sources, yes? So, so we don't lack for this information. Have we drawn a line like this on other topics in our culture? Yeah, such as gender, race, class, sexuality, physical ability, good stuff, tasty. So, age, for sure. Yeah, physical ability, disability, yeah. So this line is not the same experience, but a similar phenomenon. Amazingly, good stuff tends to group on one side of the line, bad stuff tends to group on the other side of the line. And if you're gonna kind of blame an outside group for their outsideness, there are kind of classic slur epithets like stupid, smelly, lazy, ugly, out of control, like you did it to yourself. And the people who are on this side of the line earned that position through discipline, being athletic, eating salad, taking heroin, wearing bikinis. So I think it helps to have the big picture because, like, for example, on my really bad day, I could imagine that I was just having a personal experience of very particular little insults. Or I could notice that I was having a personal experience of a larger political structure, yeah, of crappy social baggage and stereotypes. I think it helps to notice the larger picture. Also, I think it's important when I was comparing, this line to other lines, not only to notice that this line is a line that people draw on this topic, lines drawn on other topics, but that fat and thin gets mapped onto gender and onto sexuality and onto race and stuff like that. So we've seen a little bit of that, right? Like we've got rich on this side and poor on this side, or masculine and feminine, all the genders on the thin side and no genders on the fat side. So that it's really important the ways that those oppressive systems kind of lump together and intersect, and I think there will be a lot of people talking about that in really useful ways. So if we encounter this crappy system of crappy social baggage and stereotypes, is it comfortable or kind of unpleasant in general? Even if you're on this side of the line. It's kind of unpleasant. If you are a person in our society and you happen to dare to notice the system of crappy social baggage and stereotypes and say, this feels unpleasant, what is the answer that our society says will resolve your discomfort? All better. And our society says that crossing over, becoming thin, is easier and faster and better for us, right, than staying fat or any other options. And I want to go through those ideas because I disagree. I don't think it's easier to tell everyone fat to become thin in order to resolve social crappiness. I don't think it's faster, and I don't necessarily think it's better for us. Let's go through easier. When I was doing the Fatso book, Sandra Solovey, who's an amazing attorney and fat activist, came up with a statistic. She looked at the number of people dieting in the US, and she found that it was enough people to populate 27 of our states. So, easier. A lot of people are trying it. Have you guys ever heard of someone making a New Year's resolution to lose weight? And what are they generally going to do? No, I mean, they say they're going to resolve to eat better, exercise more. Lifestyle changes will make them thin. So by the next January, are they eating better and exercising more still? No. They're making the same resolution again. Were they still doing it that summer? No. 50-50, maybe. Yeah. So easier. I don't think all of those people are lazy gluttons. I don't think it's actually an easy thing to change one's basic body nature. And in fact, the medical literature, all of the kind of doctor-approved weight loss interventions have from 85 to 98% failure rate, meaning that people who lose weight 85 to 98% of the time will gain it all back. So pretty much no one is finding it easy to go, right? So it's not easier. Is it faster? Well, we've been doing this for decades. During the Kennedy administration, there was a big push to end fatness in the society. Is it better for us? Well, Americans are taller, heavier, healthier, and longer lived than we've ever been in our history. So I don't think that we're healthier and longer lived for our weight loss efforts, because those weight loss efforts aren't really producing weight loss. And I do think that it's important to look at the cost of the effort, you know, from going, whee, right? So I'm going to erase this picture, but keep it in mind. No, I'm not going to erase it. I'm just going to write something else. One of the costs of trying to jump from fat to thin. Well, now, you know, it's so interesting. When I started in the mid-90s, this number started out, it's an awesome number. It's very round. Can you guys read that? What is that? How much is it? $40 billion. When I first started being a rad fatty, every year Americans were spending $40 billion on weight loss products. Diet soda, Jenny Craig, stomach amputation. Now, as of this year, is $59.7 billion. I went on, yeah. Yeah, it's not keeping up with inflation. I went on an imaginary spending spree with this money, and I found out that I could fund more than 100 women's universities like Sarah Lawrence, or bigger, for a year with the money that Americans spend every year trying to wear a size smaller jeans. I could feed all of the hungry people and food insecure people. Irony, right? With the money that Americans spend trying to not eat. Habitat for Humanity could build actually more than one, but not quite two houses for every homeless person in the US. So I guess that's like a home and then like a vacation home. Which I would like that. Wouldn't it be interesting if every homeless person had a home and a vacation home? Also, what else can I buy? Well, so that's enough shopping. Another cost of investing in this as easier, faster, better, is the impact on our health, on our psychological and physical health. It's possible that trying to be thin contributes to eating disorders, yes? I'm no expert, not my experience, but there's some connection there. Also, I would argue that there are costs to weight discrimination. If fat people are not as employed in our society and not advanced in their careers as much, if smart, fat high school students are not admitted to colleges as much as thinner students, if fat people are not given the same quality medical care, that all adds up to social costs, that we're missing out on the full contribution and participation of fat people via weight discrimination. And no one's done the numbers to try to figure out the total cost of that. But every once in a while you'll hear about the costs of healthcare due to the obesity epidemic. These are sarcastic quotes, right? And I just want to go, yeah, well, I've got a number I can whip out. What about the cost of weight discrimination, you know? And anyway, I could almost argue that the cost of healthcare for fat people is a subset of that. But anyway. So it's not necessarily easy, it's not necessarily faster, and it's not necessarily better when we're presented with crappy social baggage and stereotypes to say that the answer is for people to change so that we all fit into the socially accepted category. What's another way to respond to this picture if it's uncomfortable and unpleasant for us? To disagree with the picture, and perhaps in a highly therapeutic manner. Would anyone like to help me erase the line? Just go erase, erase, erase. Oh, this is very exciting. Yay, we'll leave bitch and diet soda there in the middle. So, oh, I was gonna ask, before I erased it, what is the effect of all of us trying to jump over that line on the line? Strengthens it, yes. So, whether we mean to or not, right? We're buying into it when we want to jump over it. So, erasing the line, does that strengthen it or not if we disagree with the line? I think it does the opposite of not strengthening it. And I would argue that it's faster, easier, and better for us to celebrate weight diversity and health at every size, which are kind of the buzzwords that I like. Health at every size. Who's heard of health at every size? Awesome. It's a community of resistance that rose up among people doing mental health and healthcare. So these were people who, many of them had tried to make people do this, and they saw really up close all of the harms that that was doing, and they said, hey, we need a different, better approach. So there's an organization called ASDA, the Association for Size Diversity and Health. Their membership fee is very minimal, and if you want to find out more about health at every size, you should check them out. Weight diversity, how to celebrate weight diversity. In part, it means really being willing to question what passes for science in our culture right now. I'm seeing some interesting head nodding. I would say that a lot of what's happening that's talked about as if it were science is actually stereotype and superstition. For example, we've done this huge population-wide experiment trying to turn fat people into thin people. And scientific method, remind me, there are like steps, right? There's a hypothesis. Is anyone a scientist? There's a hypothesis, some experimenting, some observing while wearing white lab coats. What? Discussion of findings and conclusion. So our science around obesity science, does all of that stuff, but the conclusion never matches the data. You know? And that to me is not science anymore. That's propaganda or stereotype or superstition. In the health at every size community, a lot of times people call that conclusion section the P.S. we hate you section, which is just succinct. Another way that I like to, I mean, there's a whole literature of the health at every size argument against the kind of mainstream anti-obesity rhetoric, which I came up with this recently. I like it a lot. You know how in French the word faux, F-A-U-X, means like fake? So I came up with the idea of calling it the faux-obesity epidemic. Just, it works for me, it pleases me. I like to rename things more accurately than before, right? So faux-obesity epidemic. I like to call dieting starving. I like to call weight loss surgery or gastric bypass, I call that stomach amputation. They leave really very little, just a little teeny piece of your stomach. I like to call the lap band surgery American stomach binding. What other little words do I have for stuff? Oh, I like to say that weight does not equal health, because our current science believes that weight is just equivalent to health, that thinner is healthier, that fatter is unhealthier, and I think that's not actually a very scientific claim. One of the pieces of the science argument that I like to pick apart is the way that our faux-obesity, I don't have to do the scary quotes because I can just say the faux-obesity science, this is nice, assumes that correlation proves causation. And I actually know somebody who's got like a poli-sci textbook, and in it, in like the second chapter, it says correlation does not prove causation. In political science, they know that, right? You would think you would. So a colleague of ours, Paul Ernsberger, came up with the turkey example about correlation and causation. This one really helps me because I'm not a scientist, so it helps me to think about turkeys. So if you look at correlation, like around death rate for turkeys, you will find that turkeys die a lot in November. You're jumping ahead with the laughing. Now, it gets very cold in winter in places where turkeys live. So, there's a very high statistical correlation between cold and turkey death. Mortality rates for turkeys, like the lines, I mean, I can draw you a graph, right? Here's the graph. Here's turkey mortality, upward trending. Here's cold. Look, right? We have to give these turkeys sweaters so they don't die. So that's what would happen if we assumed that correlation proved causation, yes? What else might be happening in November that would be dangerous to turkeys? Oh. 2 very lucky turkeys will be thin on election day. They will get a presidential pardon. 2 turkeys out of all the turkeys. No, there's a holiday that involves a lot of turkey eating for people who aren't eating the tofurkey or any of those other options. So Thanksgiving is what one would call, in hard science, a confounding variable. There are perhaps some confounding variables related to the correlation, not a very strong one, between fat people and what's called morbidity, mortality. Morbidity is you get sick more, and mortality is you die more, right? So, tobacco smoking. Who smokes tobacco? I'm not going to do that. Tobacco smoking has a very high correlation with mortality. People who smoke tobacco are 300 times more likely to die from lung cancer. Let me just write the number 300. There's a movie, Sparta, right? No. You can remember 300, right? 300 is larger than 2, yes? You can see that there's a big difference between 2 and 300. Fat people are only like twice as likely to die. Only some fat people, only from some kinds of stuff. In fact, we're much less likely to get osteoporosis, which would be the morbidity stuff, which is the second leading color of women, I think. So isn't that interesting? And women get osteoporosis because we diet when we're teenagers. So the correlation is not very strong for fat people and morbidity mortality. And there might be a confounding variable or two. What might they be? You guys want to try some? The access to medical care. Yes, if I'm not allowed to buy health insurance because I'm a fatty, is it the fat that's killing me or the fat-hating insurance company? Yes. The stress of living with discrimination and this giant picture of crappy baggage. We know from other oppressions that the stress from discrimination is bad for health. There's a correlation there. I'm not going to say it's causal, but it might have something to do with it. Wearing sweatpants is bad for you. Yes, I'm so glad you're here. What else? What else? So we've got stress. Yes, please, balcony. Yeah, good wording. Detrimental nutritional effects of dieting and diet-like substances like diet pills and weight loss surgeries, yeah? Yeah. In fact, weight loss surgery, the way it works is by causing malabsorption of nutrients. That's what you hear if you actually go to the medical conferences about that stuff. Yeah, and the pills that are no longer on the market because they killed people, well, that's enough said. So yeah, people might have dieted. Fatter people might be more likely to have dieted, and to have dieted repeatedly. I would say that another confounding variable, another kind of a Thanksgiving, is weight cycling, or you lose weight, you gain it back, you lose weight, you gain it back, you lose weight, you gain it back. So same thing, but a little bit different. Poverty. That poverty is really bad for human health. And fat people may get fat because we're poor, but we also get poor because we're fat. There's a really fun article in the Fat Studies Reader, which is about that. So if you don't know about fat studies, that's a whole field, kind of interdisciplinary and new in academia, in humanities and social sciences. Fat Studies Reader is kind of one of the books in that new field. So yeah, there are all these confounding variables. Fitness level, actually, is really interesting. If you go to a health club to exercise, and the first thing they do is weigh you and calculate things and pinch you with calipers and tell you your body is bad, and if you just stand on the Stairmaster for several hours a day, you will not be fat. Is that a welcoming environment for fat people? No, in fact, we stay away. But Americans in general don't exercise, so that's confusing. But fitness level, separate from weight, correlates very highly with morbidity mortality. And there's been very little research on this. There should be more, but one of the researchers who looks into this is Steve Blair. He's this short, chubby, balding guy who jogs 5 miles a day. And I love saying that about him. He says that about himself because he's like, I can't change the fact that I'm short or that I'm chubby or that I'm balding, but I run 5 miles a day and that keeps me healthy and living longer than I otherwise would. And he's gathered data at the Cooper Institute for Aerobics Research on a bajillion people. I'll actually say it's at least 75,000 people the last time I talked to him. The bigger your data set, evidently the more meaningful it is. In science, not in stereotype or superstition. In stereotype and superstition, you can say, well, I just stopped drinking beer and I lost 10 pounds, right? And that proves that fat people are fat because we drink beer all the time. So Steve Blair gathered data on people, or donuts, it could have been donuts. And he looked at fitness level, and he measured that by doing treadmill tests and something called VO2 max, which is very scientific sounding. It's how you process oxygen when you're physically active, aerobic exercise. Yeah, and he looked at what people weighed and how they lived, were they healthy, how long did they live, what was their morbidity, mortality, and what he found was that the thin people who were sedentary, meaning who were not doing much physical activity, were 3 times more likely to die younger than the fat people who were moderately physically active. Moderate physical activity is like, go out half an hour, 3 or 4 times a week maybe, you know, and do something enjoyable like gardening or walking or bicycling. So these are not marathon runners, right? So just the confounding variable of fitness alone interrupts the correlation between weight and morbidity, mortality. I just went off the science deep end. So what do I have to say? I think it's normal. I don't want to use the word normal. I think human beings want to be happy. We like to have sex. Cool clothing, also very fun. Feeling like we have a sense of purpose in life, that we're welcome in society, that we have friends, you know, that we could do something like a career or some kind of thing and feel valuable. Those are human desires. And I don't think that in order to satisfy them, we have to have any sort of prerequisite around weight. I think that's a strange artifact of this particular picture that's a relatively recent invention of human society. So if we want to erase the line, if we want to disagree with cultural crappy baggage and stereotypes around weight, it can seem really daunting, yeah? It can seem like you're up against, well, the government, the entire advertising industry, the entire pharmaceutical, medical, weight loss industry establishment, your parents, a lot of your current friends. But I also want to tell you that it's easier, faster, and better to disagree with this line than it ever is to try to conform to this system. That using the F word fat is a great start. That noticing, simply noticing when you're encountering this kind of crap and identifying it as crap is very therapeutic, right? And then once you notice it, perhaps finding a way that for you, well, if you notice it, I certainly don't want you to care about the fact that it's crap out of sympathy for me or any other fat people. I want you to notice it and how it's bothering you and people you care about, right? Because I trust you to have your own self-interest. If you notice it, see if there's a fun way to disagree with it and to divest from the investment in it, right? I love divest, the word divest. When I was in college, people were asking colleges to divest from their holdings, their stock holdings in companies that did business in South Africa when apartheid was part of South Africa. So divest, to me, that's a really powerful political tool, very effective. You can divest in terms of money, not participating, not contributing your money to the $59.7 billion that we waste every year hating our bodies. You can divest in your thinking and your attitudes, stop believing certain things as true or important or meaningful, start believing in other things as true, important, and meaningful. You can disagree. I think disagreeing and being angry, oh, I forgot the angry step. Notice and be angry for your own self-interest. So notice it, be angry about, take stock of the cost for you, for people you care about. Disagree, using that anger. Especially women, we're here to women's college, women's history, all of this stuff, we're kind of expected not to be angry and not to disagree. Those are kind of classic sexist ideas, yeah? So I think it's fun just to do that for feminist reasons. But disagreeing can be really creative, too. You know, it can be funny, You can mock things in ways that aren't hurtful to actual people, but you can say things like phobesity epidemic. Not sure that that works yet, but I like it. And you can just find whatever is fun for you in the moment. Sometimes it's fun not to confront and then to go away and talk to all of your rad, fatty, and body-loving friends about how crappy something was. That's fine too. That's a form of disagreement. One time in San Francisco, there was a billboard of a space alien, and the billboard was for a health club, and the billboard said, when they come, they'll eat the fat ones first. And, you know, I like some space aliens, that's fine. And it's funny, but it's also a very mean fat joke, right? And the idea that a health club, which is already not a very welcoming space for fat people, would make a fat joke as a sales pitch and then expect fat people to come in and give them money was really, it really made me angry, right? And, you know, I want good health for everybody. I think physical activity is good for all of us, not that we owe it to anyone, not that it's a duty, but that, you know, it's a available thing that makes us feel good, that keeps us healthy, it's a kind of a joy, and there it is being turned into fat hate by this health club. I got angry, and I thought it would be fun to wave signs that said, "Eat me," outside their gym. And happily, a couple dozen people in my area thought that would be fun too, and we did. And we got massive amounts of media coverage just by a fluke because people had stopped impeaching Clinton that day. And there was nothing else happening but happy fat people exercising and not trying to lose weight. And that media coverage kind of led to a series of hearings and stuff in San Francisco that meant that, at least in San Francisco, there's an ordinance that, along with all the other forms of anti-discrimination protection, include height and weight, which is awesome. And there's a whole other political battle to actually enforce those laws and have the community power behind it. But you never know who you're going to affect, who around you is going to feel safer and more at home in their body because you disagree and get angry and mock and divest. And you never know how that's going to affect you. It might lead to stuff that's actually way easier, faster, and better for you than you could have imagined. So that's my talk, and thank you. And help me erase this. Oh! I have a special musical reward for all of you. Do we have time? Excellent. Before we do questions and comments and anything you might want to say, I would like, do you guys remember Mad Libs? Mad Libs. We're going to do, this is really for people of all sizes, but we're going to do Fat Libs. And I'm going to ask you to suggest to me some words to fill in the blanks on the back side of this board. Actually, would someone like to write for me on the back side of the board while I do it? Would you like to come up? Come on up. And then, after we do the Mad Libs, we're going to sing the song that we have just written as a sing-along. Thank you. So on the back side, it'll say like noun or adjective or verb and plus ing or plus s or plus. Can you shout those things out to me?
Yes.
Do you see is the writing? Hi, what's your name?
Tony.
Tony. Tony is our fabulous scribe. Yay! I'm keeping it secret thanks to Tony's help because if you could see it, it wouldn't be funny. What's the first one?
There's nobody like.
Oh, but
Oh, what?
sorry. You have to just read out pronoun.
Pronoun.
Pronoun. I need a pronoun. Any pronoun. Huh? Z. Z-I-E. Right? Z, yeah. Z-E-E? No. Z-E? Just Z-E? Okay. Z-E. Okay. You'll remember as Z-E.
But it's probably in this context, it's probably
Zer? Okay. Put Zer above Z. When you sing, you will sing the one that you want. Then we need a verb. Run. What's next?
Adjective.
Adjective. Any others? Shiny. And one more. Saucy. Got those? Beautiful, shiny, and saucy. What's next? Adjective. Delicious. Sorry, there's going to be lots of adjectives in this song. I'm not sure what that one is. Oh, that one is a freestyle. Any word you like. Mambo. Adjective. What? Penniless. Penniless. Okay. Adjective. Pendulous. What else? A verb. Chortle. And you said crafty? Oh, crafting. So do we have another? Chortles. Yeah.
And noun.
Oh, a noun. Huh? Warthog? Warthog. Yeah, same guy. Do we have another? Here, this one is crafted. A bodily function. You don't get to say anything. High five, yes. Excellent. A place. Milwaukee. And finally, desirable object. Belly. Belly. Do you like it? Can you help me turn this around now? You get to see the song you've written. Oops. You okay over there? Don't fall. Okay, Tony. You ready? So I'll just read through the, you guys know the Ethel Merman song? There's no business like show business. There's no body like their body, like nobody we know. Everything about it is running. It's so beautiful and shiny and saucy. Nowhere do you get that delicious feeling when you are mamboing that penniless body. You want to do this one?
There's no body like the pendulous body. It chortles when it is warped. Even with a body that you know will high five, you may be crafted out in the Milwaukee. Still, you wouldn't change it for a sack of a belly.
Let's go on with the conference. And in a rousing manner, let's go on with the conference. So you want to sit down? Yeah, I need your help singing. Thank you so much. Yay, Tony. So, we'll wait, okay. Everybody join me. Let out your inner Ethel Mermans. Ready, set, go. There's no body like Zer, body like nobody we know. Everything about it is running. It's so beautiful and shiny and saucy. Nowhere do you get that delicious feeling when you are mamboing that penniless body. There's no body like the pendulous body. It chortles when it is warthog. Even with a body that you know will high five, you may be crafted out in the Milwaukee. Still, you wouldn't change it for a sack of belly. Let's go on with the conference. Let's go on with the conference. It couldn't be better. So what do you guys think? I don't know, that's kind of a showstopper. Yes. and justified existing norms, yeah. Yeah. Kuhnian paradigm shift. That's rough. Overton windows. I don't know. That's kind of. Have you ever heard of that? I only just heard about Overton windows recently. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know. But let's not think about Glenn Beck. Yeah. Well, see, I think of it as an unofficial function, or maybe an unscientific function of science, to justify current prejudices, and we see that throughout history in a lot of different ways. Yeah. So I totally take what you're saying, and you know, the health at every size people are fighting that battle to try to get published and to try to get research funded, which. One of the phobesity researchers said that he wouldn't consider funding any research that used fat people as subjects that didn't include a weight loss component, because it would be unethical to have access to fat people and not try to make them thin. Right? So, yeah, it's uphill. That makes it fun and hard, and really you need community. So I'm just curious, do you have any involvement in that stuff, or you're just noticing? Yeah. And the discrepancy that you're talking about, that people invest science with wisdom, that I think if you really look at what's going on, it can't really claim. And that as lay people, we're kind of conned a little by the kind of science, so it must be true, right? You know, a couple of people had hands up. Yeah. I think mockery is really important. If people just laugh at the science, that, you know, I mean, if enough people just start going, oh my God, you think that, you know? Yeah, Peter.
I think one of the institutional problems with science and scientific research that the fellow back there was talking about is that scientists are generally not self-sustaining, and they need somebody to pay for.
We need the Medicis, yeah.
And who pays for people who have an agenda? They want to establish something. It's not pure science in the sense, let's do an examination and see what comes out. It's more, we believe the following, and we'd like you to do a test to test our theory.
Yeah.
Well, if you come out and determine that there is no basis to it, they don't fund the next study.
I also think it's generational in that the people who in the 80s were first starting to do what now is called health at every size faced a lot of uphill stuff. And now there's more community. There are more people that one can cite. And I would refer you to Linda Bacon's articles that she's published in Nutrition Journal and in JADA, Journal of American Dietetic Association. And there's more of literature to then cite. I think of them as footnote families, these kind of self-referential, self-justifying groups of people who are publishing, and that can be kind of creepy, or it can be kind of cool when you're trying to change paradigms. And I think it'll happen. And like, if you're a next generation of people involved with that, you're just going to find that more well, you know, you'll be a hero in history. And, you know, really, I mean, who's going to look cool like someone who overturns a prejudicial scientific paradigm or someone who made a lot of money supporting it, you know? So, great, yeah, in the back. I think children should eat vegetables and exercise more, but I don't think the thin ones should be exempt from the good news about vegetables and exercise. Poor Michelle Obama. I think it's got to be really hard to be the first black family in the White House, right? You know, and so she goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, your kid is not perfect. She's like overweight is the word they use, right? And so then Michelle Obama goes and says, I mean, the mission of the, whatever it's called, her, you know, children campaign, is to make there be to end the problem of childhood obesity in the next generation. Now, that's creepy language, right? Because to me, that's like, we don't want any fat children. Like, you fatties who are here will kind of grandfather you in reluctantly, but no more. You know? And unfortunately, it's tied to stuff that I would totally support, like eating veggies and exercising. And I think actually that the health at every size literature supports the notion that tying health-enhancing behaviors to weight loss goals predisposes people to stop those behaviors. So if we really want those behaviors, you know, from a pragmatic approach of really wanting those behaviors, we can stop saying, eat your veggies, don't be fat, and we can start saying, eat your veggies, love your body. To make an analogy, which analogies are always really fraught, right? But if when the AIDS virus came to humans and was really devastating, people said, you know, don't be gay, that would be an awful public health message and inaccurate and unhelpful and prejudicial. And instead, use safer sex practices is a behavioral intervention, right? So I think it's appropriate to encourage health-enhancing behaviors and not target identities. Yeah? Yeah. Please. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is why I specified we're doing speed anthropology on modern mainstream American culture, and I think it would be super interesting to contrast that with, you know, your own observation. I mean, what do you see in cultural settings around African American people, or that you know from different eras? What would be examples around fat? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In those circles. And if you know how we culturally identify as well, I mean, we have a term in environments in Africa, fat, PHAT, that a lot of young black women
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to urban cultural values, you being thicker as being more healthy and being more attractive.
Yeah, and our former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop called that attitude a threat to the public health, to the health status of black women. That the self-esteem was getting in the way of a weight loss health message, right? So I'm with you. I share, yeah. But isn't it also true that that's like a range of weights and it's not just every body? You know, I mean, so in every culture, I think there's this kind of, I would like a diverse definition, a diversity-based definition of beauty. You know, every culture, every shape, every size, every gender, you know, all of us, all physical abilities, all that we can see beauty and sexual desirability as possible. I mean, you don't have to be hot for me, right? But you have to be, someone has to have the possibility of being hot for some fatty, right? Otherwise, that's not really about desire when you rule out an entire category of people like that, yeah. But it's true, and that's important work to include. And I think the methodological critique that you're talking about, there's definitely room for people to publish on that and engage in that. I mean, some people are doing it, but there's always more room. It's really important. Anything else? Time for some spoken word? Thank you all so much. This was super fun for me.